Hi, it's Rick. Not in the shop today. I was looking online at Pinterest, I think, and I saw some small figures that were made out of paper mache. There were people, sometimes animals, in different positions, and I thought, I really like this artwork. I'd like to try to do something like that. So I did, and I ended up making this. So this is my own paper mache figure, and I decided I wanted to do something differently than I had seen, so I made up some sketches, and I made a pregnant woman sitting cross-legged and holding her belly. And I had done this just as a project for myself. I wasn't intending to make a video about it, so I just took some pictures as I went along. But it came out pretty good, and I thought that you might like to see the process that I used to make it. So here's the basic armature. It's made from lightweight aluminum wire and some old styrofoam packing. I made some drawings to gauge the length of the limbs, and I made the head out of the same styrofoam packing material. This is all very rough, but that's how it began. The wire I used in the armature was just some cheap aluminum wire I had picked up at the hardware store a while back for a different project that I was working on. It doesn't say what gauge it is, it just says aluminum wire. Now, I wanted to use aluminum wire because if you use a metal wire, there's a chance it could rust and at some point ruin your sculpture, and you don't want that to happen. So, here I'm fleshing out the armature using aluminum foil. As soon as I get a section to the shape I want, I cover it in the masking tape. Although, I also use some hot glue to hold the larger pieces together. It's the masking tape that really holds everything in place, and it gives the paper mache something to stick to. As you can see, I'm experimenting using different brands of masking tape because I wasn't really happy with the way the brand that I started with was curling at the ends. Although I did go back to it in the end, I'm going to try a different brand for my next project. After I'd gotten this far, I decided that the figure didn't have a big enough belly. You couldn't really tell that she was supposed to be pregnant, so I added more. I was also able to shape the head a little more to my liking and get everything covered in tape. While I did make a few small adjustments here and there, this was how it looked before I began the paper mache process. Next, I needed to begin the paper mache process. In my research, I learned that there are different methods of doing paper mache and different ways of making paper mache paste. Two popular recipes for this are flour, water with a pinch of salt, or PVA glue and water. I chose to go with PVA glue and water for several different reasons. Although the flour and water paste is a time-honored recipe, it has some drawbacks. It goes off quickly, it goes bad, sometimes overnight. It will mold if you don't put a little salt in it, and because of the flour, it can be attractive to rodents. So I chose to use the PVA and water mixture, and this worked out well for me. I actually did not have time to sit down and work on this straight through one day. I did it over several evenings, and I was able to mix up the PVA mixture in a small container, cap it at night, and it kept really well. Thickened up a little bit. At one point I just added a little more water and it worked great. Now PVA glue is just white glue. In America we call it Elmer's glue, is a popular brand. And you can buy it really cheap, by the gallon, which is what I did. I then tore up some newspaper, and then using a brush I wet down one side of the strip, put it on the figure, and then went over it again once it was on the figure with the brush with the PVA mixture on it. So I'm putting on some paper mache strips made from newspaper. And this is mainly to cover the fraying ends of the masking tape. I also used it to give the figure a little more shape in a few places. But this is not going to be the final paper mache covering. I removed the left arm, and it did make it easier to paper mache around that side of the body. Although the next time I do something like this, I think that I'll just leave the whole thing together and deal with it as I go. I think that it will be easier that way to get a more natural shape. I had to work at this a little bit. Here, I've started putting on the finishing layer of paper mache. These are narrow strips torn from the pages of an old romance novel. It's part of the artistic statement. I just started at the bottom, applying the strips in the same way as the newspaper layer, and slowly worked my way to the top, making sure that the entire figure was completely covered. As I worked my way up, I permanently attached the left arm and made any last-minute changes it needed to make sure that everything was shaped properly. I finished it off by covering it in a couple more coats of the glue and water mixture. I wanted to make sure that it was good and hard, and it gave it a light gloss that I liked on the piece. In a future video, I'll be making a companion piece to this, and it will be a woman holding a baby. I will actually video it this time and give you more details on the process. If you like my videos, then please subscribe, like, and hit the bell so that you'll be notified of future videos when I put them out. And as always, I thank you for watching.